Hello Booktube and welcome to my bookshelves. So Happy New Year, happy 2018 to you all. I hope you all had a nice Christmas. So today I'm going to do my December wrap up. For December I was doing the Cloak and Dagger readathon, in which I read only murder mysteries, detective fiction for the whole of December. So if you've watched my videos, you'll know I'm working through the Colin, Dexter, Inspector Morse books. So first one of those I read in December is the Daughters of Cain. Now this is the story of an ex-history professor who has been stabbed, but there's no murder weapon and they can't find a murder weapon. And as Morse and Lewis investigate, as with all these Morse books, there are lots of subjects, lots of suspects, and the case becomes complicated and convoluted. And then when another body is found, obviously the plot takes a dramatic twist towards the end. Now this is less of a whodunit than his previous books. The murder is fairly obvious, and about 2/3 of the way through we actually get the viewpoint of the murderer. So it's less of a whodunit and more of a howdunit, which Morse and Lewis try to unravel. In this book, Morse's health takes a turn for the worse. Lots of interesting characters. I felt in this book he wrote better female characters. In the previous books, all the female characters were portrayed as sexual fantasies, or in this one he gives more time for his female characters, and they're not just there as sort of background to the plot. They are proper characters in this one, which is good to read. The second Morse book I read in December, and it is the penultimate one, and this is Death Is Now My Neighbour. As I say, this is the penultimate book. In this one, a woman is shot in her kitchen through the window. It then turns out she has links to two university professors in Oxford who are up for one of the top jobs at one of the top universities. Morse and Lewis obviously start digging around, but when the next door neighbour, who is one of the professors, is also shot in his kitchen, then the plot becomes more complicated. And I felt it wasn't, as I was reading it, I sort of lost track of who was doing what and who had relationships with who, and it became too tangled while I was reading it. More interesting than the murder plot in this book is the character of Inspector Morse and his deteriorating health, and those sections were better written and more interesting in this book. And in this book you also learn Inspector Morse's first name. So all through the preceding books he's just been known as Morse, and there's been hints to his Christian name, and all of his paperwork he just signs E. Morse. And in this one his name is revealed, and it will come to no surprise as there was a spin-off with his name, and his first name is Endeavour Morse. And the third and final Inspector Morse book I read in December is The Remorseful Day. I haven't quite finished this one yet. I'm going to settle down and try and finish this one today, and then I'm going to do a video of the Inspector Morse books. So in this one, an old murder has been reopened, and the original suspects of that murder start turning up dead. Now the murder part of this book is actually better than the previous two books. At the moment it's quite easy to read, there's not too many characters to get tangled, and it's a fairly straightforward murder investigation. But again, there is this subplot of Morse's deteriorating health, and I know the last third of this book is going to be quite a difficult read. Yeah, but I will finish this one today, and hopefully next week or a week after I'm going to post an Inspector Morse wrap-up series. An Inspector Morse series wrap-up video or something. I also read other detective fiction in December for Cloak and Dagger, and the first one I picked up was Hue and Cry by Shirley McKay. This is the first Hugh Cullen mystery. Now this is an historical mystery set in 1579 in Scotland. So if you're fans of historical fiction, especially of the time period, 1570s, 1580s, then you'll enjoy this book. Shirley McKay has obviously done her research and is an expert in the time period, and the book is full of lovely details of the sights, sounds, even the smells of that period. One of the characters is a maker of dyes for clothing, and in order to make dyes involves huge pots of urine heated up, and then colouring is added to it, and she describes some of the smells and the atmosphere around that in quite graphic detail. There's also lots of medical procedures which he again describes in detail, sometimes a bit too much detail. Now sometimes these details, sometimes they slow the plot down, and although they're well written and you can tell that she knows what she's talking about, sometimes the plot sort of drifts and meanders a little bit. Now the actual murder plot is very complex with lots of characters, and I didn't feel that the actual murder plot was that engaging, to be honest. I enjoyed the writing, I enjoyed the style of it, but I just didn't find the plot that engaging. There were too many different viewpoints from different characters, and it sort of jumped around from scene to scene a bit, and the ending seemed to be a little bit rushed. So yeah, it was, like I say, if you're fans of historical fiction, then you'll enjoy this book. If you're after a good murder mystery, probably not. I then read two classic murder mysteries from the British Library crime classics. The first one I read was Mystery in White by J. Jefferson Farjeon. Now, this has all the hallmarks of a great golden age detective mystery. A snowbound train. The passengers on the train decide to walk to the nearest station. Obviously the snow beats them and they have to take refuge in an old house. That house is empty, but the fire is lit and there's food prepared and there's tea boiling on the stove, but the house is empty. So they start to explore and they discover strange secrets about the house, and then a body is discovered in the snow outside. Then when more guests turn up, it slowly unravels who the owner of the house is and why it's empty at the moment, and who the identity of the body in the snow outside. And yes, there are murders, there are bodies, but this is not a typical murder mystery. This is more like a Hitchcock thriller, very claustrophobic, and all the characters sort of trapped inside this house with the snow outside of it. They can't escape. So it's more of a thriller. Now, over at the Bookaxe channel, Lucy did a video on books that should be made into films. And sort of when you're reading a book, you think, oh, this will make a great film. Now, because I'm involved in amateur dramatics, when I was reading this, I actually thought this would make a great play. Now, we did a play recently called The Ghost Train, in which a group of strangers were trapped in a station, and sort of mysterious things that happen. And all the way through this book, I was thinking, oh, this would be great to be adapted for the stage. And it has that claustrophobic sort of feel to it. So the book is well written, a great sense of sort of time and place and sort of growing paranoia among the characters. The actual murder and solution is a little bit far-fetched, and yeah, it sort of takes a strange turn towards the end, but in terms of the actual writing, this is a decent book from the golden age of detective fiction. The second book I read from the British Library Crime Classics is The Santa Claus Murder, and I read this at Christmas. I think I started it Christmas Eve, read it for Christmas and finished it Boxing Day. This is by Mavis Doriel Hay. Now this is all the hallmarks of golden age. So you have an old country house, you have a disagreeable patriarch figure who invites all of his family who don't really like him much to spend Christmas with him. There's lots of rivalry and sort of people who aren't quite what they seem to be. And then the patriarch figure is shot in his study by someone dressed as Santa Claus. And then the police obviously arrive, start interviewing the members of the family one by one, and slowly clues are discovered and the murderer is unveiled. Now this is a absolute classic of its kind. It's very well written. The first 5 chapters, a little slow going because it's sort of introducing the family, and there's a lot of characters. So you have like sort of 4 of the children, plus their wives, plus their children, plus servants and the secretary and the gardener. So there's a lot of characters to be introduced in the first sort of 50 pages, so it's a little slow going. But once the murder happens, then you get into classic detective fiction. So a very, very good book. I think I gave this 4 stars on Goodreads. And my last book for Cloak and Dagger December is actually my favourite, and this is Murder at the Brightwell by Ashley Weaver. Now this is the first I've read of Ashley Weaver. This is the first of her Amory Ames series. Now this is set in the 1930s, I believe, but it's a modern book. It was published a few years ago, but it's written in the style of the 1930s golden age detective, and it is absolutely brilliant. So you have the main character, Amory Ames, who is a socialite, married to a man who is a bit of a playboy and sort of untrustworthy. She accepts an offer to go and spend some time with an ex of hers at a seaside resort in England, and while there, a murder happens, and she obviously starts investigating, poking around, and solves the murder. But this is slightly better than it sounds. The main character, Amory Ames, is a well-rounded character. She has personal problems with her ex-husband and her ex-fiancé and her current husband, and she has her doubts and fears about what's going on, and she is not just one of these plucky heroine type characters who gets herself into sticky situations until the police helps her out. No, she is a real well-rounded character, and she knows what she's doing all the time. She takes risks, but she's fully aware. She doesn't wait for the men to help her solve the murder. She does it all on her own, and it's a very good book. It's a good mystery, plenty of red herrings all throughout the book. And the ending is a surprise, which is what I like in a murder mystery. Some books end sort of a bit of a flat one. Well, okay, I suppose so. But this one is a real surprise when the murderer is unveiled. Yeah, for the first book in a series, this is outstanding, and I would definitely be picking up more of these in 2018. So that was my December wrap-up. So what have you been reading in December? What are your plans for 2018? Talk to me in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you for watching.